This video is the first in this series about IT vendor management strategy, starting with outcomes-based procurement.
In this video, we propose a structure we believe to be applicable to most IT procurements, review the typical approach we see employed with most large procurements, and offer a suggestion we believe can greatly improve outcomes achieved. Let's start with defining a few key procurement terms we can commonly refer to as we walk through the standard structure. First, there's the scope. Then there's the activities to complete the scope. There's the outputs resulting from those activities. There's the outcomes we hope to achieve through the activities and the outputs. And then there's the organizational impact we hope to experience as a result of the outcomes. Underlying all of this are the compliance requirements that must be followed at all times while delivering the scope. The scope of IT procurements usually falls into one of two categories: the software products to be delivered and the services to be performed.
Our next set of videos will explore subcategories of software and services and the nuances for effectively procuring and managing each subcategory.
But we'll keep it high level for now and address finer details in a later video. The activities of a procurement commonly fall into two categories as well. One, delivery services work to build, configure, integrate, convert, change manage, train to the new software solution that's in scope. And secondly, operational services work to manage the ongoing demands from the business through the software solution, potentially even performing business operations functions. Outputs are the resulting deliverables generated from the delivery or operational services work. Most often these are items like plans, status reports, or specification documentation. But we also consider delivered software solutions to be outputs. In this model, we define outcomes as near-term results that can reasonably be associated with the scope. Outcomes are ideally measurable using trend lines over time. We are using the term impact to define the reason we're doing all of this in the first place. Impacts are often much more ambiguous and hard to measure than outcomes, but should be evaluated as best possible. Mandatory compliance items, often referred to as governance, regulatory, and compliance, are conditions that must always be met universally and shouldn't be tailored specifically to different scope or activities. Examples might be items like security, confidentiality, HIPAA, Section 508 compliance, CMS regulations, state regulations, general contract terms, etc. With this model defined, let's take a look at a typical approach we see governments take to procurements and a suggested alternative. In our experience, most procurements are focused on the scope, activities, outputs, and compliance. Governments often spend months with their staff eliciting system requirements to detail out the scope and ask for detailed plans for the delivery of that scope from vendors and responses, which in some cases identifies the task level detail for the next year or more. The plans also include key deliverables and the review process for confirming the deliverables meet those requirements. Most government organizations have a well-established list of compliance items to include in the contract for vendors to follow. There are a few consistent problems we observe with this approach. One, we can't be certain that the detailed scope requirements we create will achieve the desired outcome and impact. If not, even a perfect execution of the contract may generate a poor result.
Two, a focus on the scope and predefined deliverables can limit innovation and drive up costs, potentially preventing innovative, lower-cost solutions.
Three, the time governments spend deliberating over the scope, activities, and outputs is often significant, preventing them from focusing on the outcomes for the people they serve.
And four, the barrier of entry for requirements-heavy contracts is high, which can limit competition to a small handful of incumbent companies.
We suggest an alternative method of preparing and structuring government procurements to hopefully avoid those common pitfalls. First, begin by holding brainstorming sessions that begin with the desired impacts. This will inevitably generate ideas that fall into one or more of the other categories. Capture those ideas and categorize them appropriately. Work backward from impacts and outcomes with a primary focus on those impacts. Second, align on a clear impact and outcome for the focus of the procurement. This step should include leadership alignment and prioritization at the outcome level. Third, keep scope boundaries as high level and flexible as possible. We recognize in most state environments, the staff working on procurements often do not have the autonomy to decide scope, but can usually decide to articulate it at a higher level of detail. And fourth, focus the procurement on the outcomes, impact, and compliance, and build the evaluation criteria, performance management measures, and payment conditions around those areas. We realize this isn't sufficient detail for states to take this video and start taking action. We hope you find the concept appealing. If so, stay tuned for additional videos that get into further details. See you soon.